in the last episode. It'd be cool if this really were a magic book. Haven't you ever read a book and thought, what if the world in this book was the real world? Hello everyone, my name is Kanz and welcome back to Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. So, in the last episode, Kanz inadvertently bumped into a Banga and insulted him by calling it a lizard, which you'd never ever do. Wait a second, I get it. Engage means fight.
You sure are a keen observer of the obvious, Kupo. There's the judge, and the laws for today are all set.
Judge? Laws?
Uh-oh, don't tell me you don't know about those. The laws today forbid the use of all items, Kupo. Always be sure to check the laws, or you'll be sorry.
This is actually very important. Okay, wait, so an engagement is a battle, and the laws are the rules for the battle, and that guy in armor is the judge?
Kupo, it's your turn, Kupo. Use your sword and your abilities. I'll back you up.
Okay, here goes. So basically what I'll be doing is I'll be looking over the various menus you have access to during a fight, and then I'll actually go into the fight itself. So, first menu we have access to is movement, which we already know what it is. You get an additional movement space compared to the first battle, since in the first one you only have 3 movement space, in this one you have 4. Your action. Now you actually have an ability besides this basic attack. In this case it's Battle Tech, and for now you only have the ability First Aid, which is your basic healing or recovery ability. In this case it heals you for pretty much negligible or basic health. So, really no use in having it in my opinion. Secondly, you have here the wait option. Basically this skips your turn so that you're following your present turn, you skip it, and then that means that your following turn will come around faster. Status is pretty straightforward. It describes the status of the character you select. You can do this with your own characters as well as the enemy characters. What does this say? So this lists the class or job that the character currently has, their equipment, their stats to the left, so you see their move, jump, weapon attack, weapon defense, speed and all that. And to the right here, excuse me, you have your abilities. Right now we only have the battle tech like we saw before and combat combo. For now we can't actually use the combat combo, but if we were able to use it, it would be under the action option here. Now if we back out of that, we go here into the system menu. So turn order, this is more useful later on when you have a series of abilities and special characters with special attack patterns that maybe you need to put them in a certain position or prepare them for the next attack. So here you can see the order in which either your characters or the enemy characters are attacking in. Secondly, you have the mission here. This game is based around missions which involve fighting. Not all of them are the simple mission like we have here where it's just defeat the enemy team. Some of them might require you to defeat only one, or some of them require you to protect characters and defeat all the enemies. However, alongside defeating all the enemies, you do have limitations or basically your failure, which is you'll lose, like it says here, you lose if all your units are KO'd or knocked out, or Kanz is imprisoned. In this battle, Kanz can't actually be imprisoned, so I'm not entirely sure whether that's there. Secondly, laws. This has to do with imprisonment. You will see at the end of this battle what that means. So you have here forbidden items and recommended dark. Now, Mont Blanc only mentioned the items being forbidden, but what does this mean? Well, you get a penalty from the judge for a successful hit, or in this case, use of item or action abilities that use items. You'll see later on what these penalties are, but basically, don't do this unless you want to lose the fight. The recommended law is you are rewarded for doing these moves or using abilities that are recommended by the judge, because the way this game works is you can't be penalized without being rewarded. So, in this case, you get a judge point bonus for a successful hit with dark actions or dark action abilities. However, dark weapons are not rewarded. For us, this isn't really important for this battle, but this law actually tells you two things. One, you have abilities that have elemental affinities. Same applies to weapons. So you have your standard fare in any Final Fantasy game, this applies as well. You have your standard fare of ice element abilities or fire or thunder, all this sort of stuff. So you should be familiar with that. Basically, it rewards you for using those abilities in this fight. In this case, we don't have any dark abilities. Now, we have here options. So this isn't entirely important, this is more for personal customization. I'm just going to turn a few things on and off. Flee. So this is the option of basically escape from the fight that you're in. Why would you do this? Well, sometimes the fight you might walk into, or sometimes there's a surprise fight that isn't mandatory. So you might find that suddenly your enemies are really strong, or there's been this power spike in the levels at the time, and the fight isn't going well. So you can escape that battle, or even a mission that isn't mandatory, again. You can escape it and come back later, because obviously you don't get penalized for this other than if it's a mission, maybe you will have to wait a certain amount of days or until the next month to get that mission again. You'll know what I mean by months and days. However, like I said, you cannot flee from mandatory battles. In this case, this is one of them, so I can't escape from this battle and not fight altogether. The save now is a temporary save, so it's one of those things where you save during the fight, you can turn off the system, once you come back, you go straight back into the fight, however, the save state is gone, so if you turn off the system again, the save state will be gone, so we'll go back to the last save you made normally. So always remember to save after you finish the battle, otherwise you might forget, turn it off, and lose about an hour's worth of effort, which I have done before. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the fight itself. So, one thing I will be saying about these fights, at the beginning, there isn't too much going on. It's basically try and get behind the characters and hit them as much as you can, because right now, there's no particularly fancy or special abilities. Mont Blanc at the moment is the only one that has any different or particularly interesting abilities in this fight. However, the AI for your allied team, so these are characters that you're not controlling but are fighting with you, isn't all that great for this game. However, this game is not particularly hard in my opinion. That's why you have things like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance X. So it's basically just a harder version of this game. However, I wanted to play through the original because that's what I'm assuming most people either had or have access to. Right here you see an example of what I was mentioning before. Mont Blanc used a special ability there, in this case was Lightning. And he got rewarded for knocking out an opponent with 1 GP, which is the judge point here. Judge point? What's that? Well, Kanz.
Collect judge points. That way you can use combos with other clan members. It makes engagements a snap, Koopa.
So all I have to do is defeat my opponents? Gotcha. It's not entirely true, like I explained just there. But yes, these fights, I feel, aren't particularly hard, but then again, I've played this game so many times, I know it back to front at this stage, I think. So for the most part, this fight is fairly straightforward. I won't be going into too much more detail. I will say one thing though, those judge points are what you need for the combos. So you get them by either performing, like I mentioned before, the recommended laws, or by knocking out opponents. Now, might as well go into the combos, really. The combos are self-explanatory. What happens is they usually have the strength of a normal attack if you're just using it by yourself. What do I mean by myself? Well, your allies can join in the combo. So say you have 3 characters on your team and all of them have combo abilities. If one character, or say all the characters have judge points, so they're all able to perform combos. Let's say that one character decides to perform a combo ability. What does that result in? Basically, it's an attack that doesn't miss and it looks cool and all that, but if the other 2 characters are nearby when you're using that combo attack, they will join in on the same turn and add damage to the enemy that you're attacking. So you end up performing a very strong attack, like a superpowered attack. However, the cool thing about it is that your ally's turn isn't used up. So if they all have judge points and they're all able to perform combos, that means for 3 turns, if you were facing a particularly powerful enemy, you can perform a superpowered attack 3 times. So, unfortunately this fight is actually dragging on a little bit because the enemy keeps escaping and Montblanc keeps missing with his attack. Because usually by now I would actually have this fight done, but the accuracy in this game is kind of annoying. Oh, okay, well there we go. I just had to say it and the fight was over. So we got a judge point in the end, but I couldn't show off the combo. Whew, I guess I made it somehow. Grr, I'm hurt. Where's that potion? Infraction of law forbidding items. All violators will be sent to prison. I should have given him like a really high-pitched voice. So here is the result of what happens when you infringe on the law, except this is an extreme version. Usually what happens is the first time you use an ability that is forbidden, you get a yellow card. If you kill an enemy with that ability, you automatically get a red card. However, you get a red card if you perform the forbidden ability twice, or you already have a yellow card to that character, it turns into a red card and they get sent to prison. This prevents you from being able to revive or use that character for the rest of the fight. So basically this is the way of kind of adding a layer of difficulty or strategy to the game, which is if you aren't paying attention to the laws, you can get really screwed over on the day.
Kupo, the slammer. I hope I never get sent there.
The slammer?
Yeah, prison. They send people who break the law there. Oh, it's a dark and scary place. Kupo.
Perpetrator sentenced and imprisoned. Visitors are asked to go to the prison facility in Strom. I keep saying prison. Strom? Prison? What have I gotten myself into? Thanks for helping me.
Never ever call a banga a lizard. Kupo.
Sorry, I really didn't know.
You have seen a banga before, right, Kupo?
Well, yes. Well, no. Not a real one, at least.
Kupo! Where exactly are you from, Kupo? Kadoan? Muscadet?
I don't know. I'm all confused. And to top it off, I'm talking to a stuffed animal.
A stuffed animal? I'll have you know I'm a Moogle, Kupo.
Fine, so you're a Moogle. What's that?
Okay, I believe you. You're confused? Let me explain. This is the town of Cyril, in the land of Ivalis.
Ivalis? That's the name of the town where I'm from.
Town? But Ivalis is a country.
Not my Ivalis. And there's no banga there either.
What about Moogles? Surely the other towns have them.
Nope, we just have normal things like dogs and cats.
But you said you'd seen a banga, only not a real one. What did you mean, Kupo?
Well, it's just, I've seen a banga, but in a computer game, not real life.
Koopo?
It's called Final Fantasy. It's not real. Not really. It's like a pretend world with heroes and monsters.
So you're saying here is just like your pretend world?
Yeah, come to think of it, it's just like in the game.
Okay, now I'm the one that's confused, Koopo.
Sorry, I know I'm not being very helpful.
Nope, this is by far the most Koopo story I've ever heard.
You're telling me?
Of course, I'm not entirely sure I believe you, Koopo.
I can hardly believe it myself. What should I do?
I think our meeting like this was no accident, Koopo. Stick with me, and I'll help you out, okay, Koopo?
Thanks. By the way, I'm Kanz. What's your name?
They call me Mont Blanc, Koopo. Come with me, Kanz.
What's this place?
This is where our clan members hang out. Clans are like groups of people who work together.
And Kanz are stating the obvious. Wow, everybody looks so tough.
Well, our clan takes on some pretty rough jobs. Of course, the pay's good and there's never a dull moment.
Maybe someone here knows how I can get back home.
You could ask around, Koopo.
Can I join the clan too?
Sure thing. I just have to introduce you and you're in. Hey everyone, I'd like to introduce Kanz.
Hello?
Me and the others will help you out. And maybe we can help you find your way home, Koopo.
Say, Mont Blanc, does this clan have a name?
Well, it's kind of a small clan, so no, not yet. Koopo, why don't you give it a name, Koopo?
Me?
To commemorate you joining the clan, make it a Koopo one.
So, I'm not sure, but I kind of hope that a lot of people have considered calling themselves the main character and the clan Koopo, or Koopo Koopo like I call it sometimes, because when Mont Blanc has your character's name, the clan name, and his own Koopos in a single sentence, it's just insane the amount of Koopos that the sentence ends up having sometimes. I am unoriginally naming this clan Kanopi just to acknowledge the person who edits these videos, because I actually just record them and then I send them off to be edited. So thank you, Kanopi. How about Kanopi?
Koopo, henceforth we shall be called Clan Kanopi. Okay, let's get you settled in, shall we, Koopo? This is where we are right now, in Ivalice.
So, this notice is actually important. It's talking about something that happens when you get a new location symbol, or just a little icon, as I like to call them. This is the icon, it's from, so this is the other town or city that they were talking about, and here we have Cyril underneath the little Kanz sprite here. So, the notice was talking about what happens when you place new icons on the map. This is the world map. As you can see, it's pretty empty or barren, and we only have one other icon, Giza Plains, aside from this one. So, going back, when you place an icon, there is a possibility that when you place similar icons next to each other, like in this case you might have Cyril here and Sfrom here, I'm just going to put it down, you might have Sfrom, or any other icon that you place, suddenly shake on the spot. This indicates that there's a treasure hidden beneath it. So, what does that mean? Well, the treasure is part of a little kind of mini-game, you could call it, of treasure hunt, which basically, depending on where you put certain icons and certain groups along the map, certain items will appear beneath them. Now, I will include in the description below, I'm just going to point with the icon, below, a guide that I find useful for placing these various icons, because the items that you get from the treasure hunt aren't the only way that you can get them is through treasure hunts, but Some of them are either rare equipment or very useful but expensive items that you can use in battle, so either it saves you some money or you get an extra set or an extra item type that you normally wouldn't have because they're so rare or there's only 3 of them in the entire game. Those who are familiar with the game know exactly which type I'm talking about, but basically that's it. You can kind of make your own, you can make your map completely different from everyone else, but some people would say, well, it's to your benefit to build it a certain way and put certain icons up here and then certain ones down here and so on. So it totally depends on you. You can build it however you like. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to place them down in a certain pattern, the way that I prefer. I'm not following the guide specifically, but I will have it included. I'm not entirely sure if I'll be making a video about it because it does go into detail about icons that we don't have yet, and I don't want to unnecessarily spoil anything unless it's coming up in the next episode or something like that. Here you have your money, which is just outlined as clan funds, and if you remember in the battle, I mentioned that you only have certain missions on certain months. This here is King Moon. Let's just say it's the first month of the year. I'm not entirely sure how many months there are exactly, either there's 4 or 6 months in total, and there's, I think in the sequel there's only 21 days, but in this game I think it's still 30 or 31 days per month. Why is this important? Well, like I said, certain missions only appear during certain months, and then you can't take them any other time of the year, and it takes you a certain amount of days sometimes to get to a location. What do I mean by that? Well, the distance you travel from one icon space to the next is always 1 day. So, say we wanted to travel to Giza Plains down here, well, it would take us 3 days, either by here or by here, for example. You took this path and then this path down here. It would always take you 3 days. Some missions have a deadline where you have to reach the place or you have to get to the location in a certain amount of days, or you have to complete it within a certain amount of days, not necessarily reach that place in a certain amount of days. Others don't have a deadline. Those are typically story missions. Now, one thing that I do want to bring attention to before I end the episode is laws. They're really important, especially at the beginning of the game, but there is a loophole later on that kind of breaks the game a little bit. Basically, one thing that you have to note about laws is your missions can sometimes get a little bit screwed over by the laws. What do I mean by this? Well, if you check, today it was items and recommended was dark. However, you see here a list of new laws beneath it. What does this mean? Well, say we wanted to go to Giza Plains like I mentioned earlier. Suddenly the laws have changed. Well, as a day passes, a new law is introduced. This is not to say a completely new law is introduced, it's simply there's a new law put in place for that day with a new recommended law. So, why is this important? Well, say you wanted to, for example, wanted to fight a particular mission where you had to fight a band of thieves. Well, thieves normally fight using knives. If you landed on the icon on a day that knives were being forbidden, or banned rather, then you could technically cripple the opposing team, because if they're all thieves and their main weapon is a knife type, then they can't physically attack you. Abilities can, but knives cannot. So, basically they have to use their abilities, which either are very weak, or do no damage, or just aren't useful for combat. And basically the AI will actually not use the moves at all, won't use the standard move of fight and then use the knives. This can be very beneficial to you, however, this can also hamper your progress, or it can kind of screw you over during the fight. If you have a style of, for example here, ganging up, instead of copycat, which is another thing altogether, where you use 3 characters to gang up on 1. You might find that suddenly you can't do that anymore, so you have to fight one-on-one. And maybe your characters just aren't strong enough for one-on-one, so you really struggle in a particular fight. Basically, you can skip or take a longer route than necessary to get to the location. Say, if it took 3 days and you landed on ganging up, well, just go the long way. Take 4 days instead. Start here, go here, and then you have a completely different law once you reach there. So, you kind of tweak the laws as you like. But that's all from me. I'm Kanz. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more and keep up to date, please consider subscribing. And as always, I hope you're having, have had, or will have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.